Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Debbie with the Question Queens, and today I have got Dopey. It's such a funny name. Dopey! It reminds me of Dopey and Doc and Bashful and all the Seven Dwarfs. Anyway, this is an interview with Dopey for Tom Macdonald. Yay! I know. It is a long video. So I'm probably going to break this up in parts. I will not be able to sit that long and do this. So we're going to go ahead and get straight to the video. But if you haven't hit that subscribe button, you could please do that right now. It'd be great. And let's go ahead and get right to it.
Welcome to Dopey, the podcast on drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. My name is Dave, and this is a very exciting day because it is not often we have the #1 Billboard artist on Dopey. He is in recovery. He's a rapper. He has tattoos on his face. He's very controversial. His name is Tom Macdonald. Welcome to the show.
Tom Macdonald.
Hey, brother. How are you doing?
Hey, brother.
I'm good. It's a big deal. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You guys are doing a cool thing, and obviously I have a little bit of experience with what you guys talk about, so it made sense.
So you know, the Instagram page is called the Hangover Gang. Is that the HOG under your lip, Hangover Gang?
Hog
Sure
forever.
is,
And describe, before you say anything else, what exactly is the Hangover Gang?
well, it's sort of like morphed and evolved over the years because it started out. I was a big drinker once upon a time, and so were the guys that I hung out with. So it started as just like, 3 or 4 of us that were just getting plastered all the time, and just having like what we thought were like the best times of our lives, like all the time. So I just kind of like, we were always hungover, and I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's right on the nose. We were the gang, so we were just the Hangover Gang. I got a T-shirt made.
Oh my gosh!
And I gave my dad like the first T-shirt, and
That's funny.
That was, geez, like probably 10 years ago. So I think we've all sort of like grown up and evolved as human beings, whereas we're still like just a group of guys that's trying to have the best time of their life as often as possible. We've just sort of removed copious amounts of alcohol from the equation.
That's a good thing.
Right on. And what was the first tattoo you put on your face? Just out of curiosity.
This one across my forehead.
What does it
What
say?
does it say?
Live and die in a dream.
All right. Were you using when you did it, or were you sober? Or is that a stupid question?
No, it's not.
That's not a stupid question. There are no stupid questions.
I think I can prove. I think I'll be able to prove by the time this interview is over that there are stupid questions. But we'll see if we can find one.
Sure. You know what, man? Like, I sort of, I didn't quit drinking sort of like all at once. I mean, I sort of did. I quit a lot of things all at once, but a few things kind of trickled back in and hung out for a bit, and then eventually sort of like fucked off permanently. So I might have been like having, a couple drinks here and there or whatever, but it was nothing compared to, the inception of Hangover Gang. So.
Okay, and what came first, alcohol and drugs or love of hip hop?
Love of hip hop.
Hit me with it. How did it happen? What was the first rap song you fell in love with? First rapper? What's the story?
Dude, it was crazy. So I used to live in this like really small town called Mission in British Columbia in Canada, and it was like one of those towns that like if you blinked driving in, you were already driving out. It was real small. So there was like this one sort of like main drag where there was like the arcade and like the movie theater and like a couple convenience stores and shit like that. And one of the stores was a pawn shop. And my dad was always like big into like going to garage sales and swap meets and like all that type of stuff. So we used to roll to those places together all the time. And we went into this pawn shop one time, and he gave me $5, and he said, "You can get anything in the pawn shop with this $5. Anything you want.
That's cool.
$5 doesn't go very far in a pawn shop. But I found like a plastic milk crate full of CDs, and the CDs were $5. So I was digging through all the CDs. I think at that point in time I had 2 tape cassettes. I had Offspring, No Doubt, and I had a Marilyn Manson CD. That's like all I had. Oh, I had a Big Shiny Tunes CD, which is like a compilation of rock music. That there were these compilation CDs that they used to release in Canada. It was like a big deal. So I didn't have very much music, but I had a boombox. So I'm digging through this thing, and all the CDs are $5, but I find Tupac, All Eyes on Me, and I had heard Tupac, the name, before. I'd never heard any. He was a huge icon
Star.
At that point
Sure.
in time. Yeah. So I'd heard his name around, never heard his music or anything like that. But the selling point to me was All Eyes on Me was a double CD set. So for $5,
Yeah.
I get 2 CDs instead of 1 CD. So just thinking economically, I was like, you know what? I'll get more music for my $5 if I get this Tupac CD. So that's what I'm going to do.
Funny.
Bought the Tupac CD. And, you know, I think that was the only 2 CDs that I listened to for probably like the next like year. And I've always been like that. I never, you know, when I fall in love with rock music, I don't listen to like a wide array of rock music. My favorite, the band, the music that spoke to me the most, that was made by Led Zeppelin. And
Sure.
so that's all I listened to. I just listened to Zeppelin. So when I found Tupac,
I'm going to admit something. I mean, I'm sure I know of a song that Led Zeppelin sings, but I have never listened to Led Zeppelin. I know a lot of y'all are probably freaking out right now. Like, how's that even possible? Yeah. Goes along with the whole 2 weeks of there's a lot of people I don't know, especially in music. But yeah, I can't say I've ever said I've looked up and listened or bought any music, or I don't even know what they sing. Yeah, I know. It's bad.
and
Sure.
so that's all I listened to. I just listened to Zeppelin. So when I found Tupac, I didn't immediately go start listening to the DMXs and Jay-Z's and whoever else was cracking at the time. I just listened to Tupac. That's it. And I just listened to that straight. And then years later, I was getting on this like yellow school bus that used to take me home after school. And this kid sits down next to me on the bus, and he's got this little Discman with him. And he's like, dude, you have to listen to this. I stole this CD from my brother. And I was like, what is it? And he's like, this guy's name's Eminem. He's a white rapper. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, that's probably trash. And he's like, no, man, you got to listen to it. And I remember putting my headphones on and just being like, holy shit. Like, because, you know, there's a certain disconnect between like a little white kid from like the suburbs who's listening to Tupac. Like, you can love it, and it can be all you listen to, and you can be infatuated with it. But there's a disconnect there. He's talking about a lot of things in a life that I'm not familiar with, that I don't directly relate to. So when I heard Eminem start talking about stuff like just the crazy nonsensical shit and the problems with his folks and the trailer park and all this other stuff, those are things that I'd seen and that I'd been around. And that bridged the gap for me, where I was like, oh my God, I could do that. I could write raps. I don't have to be like the gangster drug dealer guy. I can just be me.
Wow.
So that was the big moment for me. So, you know.
So
That
how
is
long after listening to
amazing.
Eminem were you like, fuck it, I'm going to give it a shot?
Well, I secretly like wrote poems and rock songs and raps and stuff for like a long time. Like, actually, my dad was just at the crib the other day, and he brought me like a binder full of these like old fucked up raps that I used to write, like, and stash them in this binder.
Vintage Tom Macdonald lyrics. Right on.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So I wrote them for like a long time. And just, I don't know, just I was sort of preoccupied because I guess I wouldn't fully have the confidence in myself to step out on a public stage and be like, I'm a rapper now. So I just secretly just wrote that for music for a long, long time, and I actually got into pro wrestling. I like really fell in love with like WWF, and for whatever reason, I was like, oh, like that's something.
I just realized that the tattoo right there on his face says second rodeo. What does that mean? If any of you all know what that means, if you could leave a comment and let me know. Does that say Hollywood on his neck? Wow, I would like to know like all of the tattoos and what they mean. But anyway, sorry, I know that was off topic, but
For whatever reason, I was like, oh, like that's something that I could do. And the pro wrestling stuff touched me in a really similar way that the music touched me. It was really, but that's another story that's pretty fucking crazy.
Let's hear the story.
So
Wait, hold up. I like any good story. That's my world. What's a good story that you weren't going to
tell? Well, just like the wrestling stuff, essentially, like, I had been getting like, I was always sort of like a kind of like a timid kid. I never had like a whole lot of friends or anything like that. I actually like dealt with like getting like bullied pretty like intensely when I was a kid, like to the point where like, man, these kids invited me to their house one time. This is always the story that I cite when I think back on the bullying. It just like left the craziest imprint on me. These kids invited me to their fucking house, and that was sort of known that they didn't like me, but for whatever reason, they were like being cool to me that day. And like as a kid who just like wanted to be fucking accepted by anyone, I think people get this like Stockholm syndrome type of shit where like you want your bullies to fucking like you for whatever reason.
Sure.
So they invited me. Yeah. So they invited me to their house. I went over and knocked on the door, and they were waiting on the fucking roof, and they actually dumped a whole bunch of water on top of me when I knocked on the door. And it was like -30, middle of the winter in Canada. And I had to walk home like frozen solid, like my jeans frozen to like my legs. It was fucking gnarly. So
he said gnarly.
I had to deal with a lot of like weird shit like that, getting bullied by kids and stuff. And I remember,
that's terrible.
You know, me and my dad moved away from my mom and my sister just because there's a lot of layoffs and shit happening in my hometown at that point in time. It's tough for dad to find work, and that's when the big oil boom was happening in Alberta. My dad got a job working in some sort of management position in the oil fields or whatever in northern Alberta. So me and my dad moved to Alberta, leave my mom and my sister in British Columbia.
Mission. Right.
Yeah, in Mission. And me and dad are living in a basement suite in Edmonton, and like we got our couches from the garage sales, and like we were sleeping on an air mattress together that would like, we'd wake up in the morning and we'd be sleeping on the concrete floor because it leaked during the night, and it was just like fucking gnarly. Like we were trying to get our life started so we could move my sister and my mom in. One day I get home after school, I'm sitting in the living room, on this thin little fucking carpet on top of the concrete floor. And I flipped on the TV, and we had like 20 channels, and one of them was pro wrestling. And I guess that night, the big main event of Monday Night Raw was Stone Cold Steve Austin against The Undertaker. And I had no idea who either one of these fucking guys were. For whatever reason, I stopped to watch it. This guy's walking around outside with this microphone, and he's like interviewing all of these fans that are standing outside of the arena, and he's asking them like, who do you think's going to win tonight? Who do you think's going to win tonight? And everybody is saying like, oh, I think the Undertaker's going to win because he's the dead man. It was a first blood match, so first person to bleed loses.
Right.
So they're asking, and all these people are like, oh, the Undertaker's going to win. He's the dead man. He doesn't bleed, and he's going to beat Steve Austin's ass. Blah 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 blah. And I'm thinking to myself like, damn, this poor fucking Steve Austin guy is going to get fucked up. Like, right? This is going to be gnarly, right? So then,
Him and his gnarly.
and whatever, I was hooked. So I wanted to watch it. And the Undertaker comes out with all the music and the lightning and the scary shit. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, like this guy is going to fuck this other dude up like bad. And so Undertaker's in the ring, and then Steve Austin's music comes out and he walks through the curtain. And I just remember that, like, he was walking into a situation that seemed like almost certain defeat, and he did not give a fuck. He was like walking to the ring with a purpose. He was not afraid. I was scared for him. He was not fucking afraid. And he went in there and beat the shit out of the Undertaker. And I remember thinking to myself that that character that was Steve Austin to some degree like embodied me, and the Undertaker embodied sort of these bullies, and these daily fights I was up against.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's great
to see, yeah. So I was just like, oh my God, this is the most incredible fucking thing I've ever seen.
It's so awesome.
And it hit me on such a level that I was like, I need to do that. I'm going to do that. So to bring it back to the music stuff, I was writing music, but I had discovered pro wrestling, and I ended up going headfirst into pro wrestling for many years. But I didn't stop writing the music and stuff sort of behind the scenes in my private time. And then when the wrestling stuff sort of culminated and reached its unfortunate conclusion, I had like a bunch of music and stuff that I'd been writing for years, and needed an outlet for, wrestling was my exhaust. That's like where I let everything out. That was my creativity. That was my art form. And without that, super frustrated, having to bottle up a bunch of stuff, not getting to express myself the way that I wanted to express myself. So I started taking all the music I'd been writing, bought a microphone, bought some recording software, started making beats, started recording music, slowly started releasing music, got on my first rap show. It was actually a show that was being thrown by my girlfriend Nova back in Canada. And fuck, man, here we are.
But I have a lot of questions. First of all, the crossover between hip hop and wrestling is really interesting because there are similarities in terms of like braggadociousness, like in rap music and wrestling exists. I don't know if you know this guy, Peter Rosenberg. I just interviewed him. He's like the Hot 97 DJ in Manhattan. Yep. He's also a WWE commentator. I know a lot of people who are into hip hop and wrestling similarly. What are you doing, Nora? Oh. Close the door. What are you doing, baby?
All right. Well, I'm going to actually make that part 1 video. That was a really cool story. That really was. And I love how, like, it's amazing what you can go through your life and find something or someone that's going to change your perception of how you view things. And just like the wrestling, and he represented or felt a connection with Steve Austin, and the Undertaker were the bullies. I think that's pretty cool. Very cool. Anyway, so that's part 1 of the video. I love these stories. I love getting to know him better and getting some history. And if you know about that tattoo on his face right there, it says Second Rodeo. Let me know what that means. And anyway, I will continue with the next part in just a little bit. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that on the way out. All right, I'll see you really soon. Bye.